I'm Griselda Cetino, and by now you probably have heard of phrases like e-cigarettes and vaping-related illnesses. Vaping has really become a big issue this year, and it all started when the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention started to look at the health concerns of vaping. They found that thousands of people across the country are getting sick. They're getting lung disease caused by vaping, including some cases right here in Arizona. We know of at least one 16-year-old girl who went to the hospital. She went into cardiac arrest, and it was because she had been vaping for 2 years. Cases like this really got my attention, and I wanted to see how prevalent is vaping among Arizona teenagers. And one way to quantify that was to look at discipline data. So I reached out to school districts in the East Valley to see what number of students they are disciplining for vaping on school grounds, and the numbers are astonishing. In Mesa Public Schools, for example, which is the state's largest school district, they have found that their number of kids that are being disciplined for vaping every year has doubled since 2016.
Unfortunately, we're seeing some of our violations as early as 3rd and 4th grade. Typically, most of the violations are in junior high and high school, and they can be anywhere that's considered school-related property, whether it's on a bus or on a campus. A lot of them are using the restrooms as a place to try to hide.
Other school districts in Tempe, Scottsdale, and Chandler are also seeing their numbers increase. All of these numbers are part of our Hooked on Vaping series that we brought to you in October. As part of the series, we also found vaping is not just prevalent in the East Valley. Almost half of Arizona students have vaped by the time they reach 12th grade. That's according to the latest Arizona Youth Survey. These numbers have health experts worried. I spoke with Dr. Karen Swanson with the Mayo Clinic, and she says she's concerned about how the lungs of young people are being impacted by vaping and how they're becoming addicted.
Teens' brains are very, very sensitive to nicotine. So very small doses of nicotine have the ability to cause things like addiction, to cause things like psychological unrest in a developing teen's brains. These patients are more than likely going to end up with an addiction problem starting at a very young age, of which they're not even aware.
Since our series came out, the number of vaping-related illnesses right here in Arizona has continued to climb. We now know of at least 20 cases. I spoke to the doctor who looked at almost every single one of these cases.
Most of these patients are really sick. They're admitted to the hospital. They end up in the intensive care unit. The two that we were directly involved in had life-threatening lung injuries. So they were on breathing machines. They were incredibly unstable for many days, and they were lucky to survive.
He says many of these patients are young people. They're in their 20s and 30s, and most of them have used vaping products that contain nicotine or tobacco. School districts now are taking action. Some have launched campaigns that educate students and parents about the health dangers of vaping. Others are installing vaping detectors. And some are joining other school districts across the country to sue the biggest name in vaping. There was also a lawsuit filed by an Arizona teen recently. He claims misleading ads by Juul got him addicted to nicotine. Cities are also taking action against vaping. Mesa, for example, has adopted stricter regulations against vaping in public places. As we look to the new year, state lawmakers are also taking action. They're planning to introduce legislation related to vaping. State Senator Heather Carter says she plans to introduce a bill to classify vaping products as tobacco. This means vaping products would have to follow the same restrictions as tobacco products. State Senator Martin Quesada also plans to introduce a bill to prohibit vaping products from being advertised near schools. In 2020, I don't think this issue is going to go away. I do think that we are going to continue to see more cases of vaping-related illnesses here in Arizona. And it's going to be interesting to see how cities, how school districts, how the state legislature really takes up this issue. I'll continue to follow those developments and bring you the latest.